Hey there, YouTube, it's Petey Two Finger, and today we're going to be talking about Zoom. Zoom announced the release of the MS200 D Plus. So I guess we should pop over so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me open this window up. Here's the MS200 D Plus. It's a multi-stomp. For those about to shred, well, it's 200 drives and distortions. 164 Zoom originals plus 36 emulations of classic tones that cover overdrives, distortion, boosts, fuzz, and more. Create your own distortion. You can chain any two of these effects together in series or parallel, or alternate, for the ability to quickly switch between two tones. Color changing display, solid body with a metal frame, and it will run on a pair of AA batteries, USB-C, or a power supply. It looks like it has a 9-volt input, but you can run it off of 3. Now, in case you weren't aware, I realize this isn't exactly brand new information to some of us, but they also are releasing the MS200 G Plus. And this is 6 at once, mono in, stereo out, 6 effects at once, 4 buttons, 4 knobs, and software editing and patch sharing. 130 metal chassis. The original MS200 G, this one here, this has a slightly different amp or effect models in it, and there's those are actually listed. You can find the list for those if you look. It's on Reddit. So ultimately, I mean, people are complaining. That's what we do. We're guitar players. We complain. They want the MS200 CDR Plus. That's the blue one. That's the one that has the chorus delay and reverb, and it's stereo in and stereo out. This is the one that guitar players like to have this on their board. Ultimately, if you have one of the older units, you can get a third-party software application called Zoom Sound Effect Manager. And what this enables you to do is rewrite over the CMOS, almost like a firmware update almost. It's different. This is third-party software, so it's not from Zoom. It's like some dude wrote the software. And what it enables you to do, let's say you have the MS200 G, which is the guitar. You can erase the effects in it that you don't use. You can go through the list, pick the ones you don't use, and then import other Zoom effects from the other multi-stomp series. Like, let's say you play bass sometimes. So you can go on the MS60B and grab some of their bass effects, import them. And it gets a little goofy with that. Like when you go to use the regular tone software, the tone lock software, whatever it is, and you've changed the models around, So user beware, but it is something neat to consider. Like for us, we have a G10N and a B10N. I have a B2 here. I have a G3. And the G3 is the one, not, see, there's the G3, then there's G3N. They updated it and it's a little different. I have the old version. That's not compatible. That's the only one that's not compatible with this flip-flopper software. But I've done it. I went through and customized my G10N. And I absolutely loved the zooms. The only thing with the zooms is they didn't have really stellar level amp modeling. The MS59, their Marshall is phenomenal. The Fender, all other Fender, their clean Fenders sounded great. And they had a high gain Alien amp model that I paired that up with the ADA1, the old tube preamp. They call it a ZMP1 in the model. And I came up with a guitar sound I've never had anything like it, remote, like it's a unique high gain sound. That I absolutely love that sound. So I can't go in there and just like poop on their amp modeling and say, oh, they were terrible, because they weren't. Okay. Within what they offered, there wasn't a real lot of variety in there. And it could have been on a higher definition. But this is like 15-year-old technology. This is old amp modeling. Of course, it's not going to sound as good. So ultimately, what I'm getting at is they are releasing these effects. I'm not sure if they've updated the amp models in the MS50G Plus. I'm guessing this software that I said that you can, this third-party Zoom effect manager, I would be really surprised if the amp models and the effects in the MS50G Plus that just came out are compatible with the old stuff. Maybe it is. Maybe they're using the same models. Maybe they are. I would be really surprised if that's a fact, though. And the thing that impressed me was people complained about Zoom being weak in their game of their distortions, and they fixed that. So hopefully this company, Zoom, they can continue to be smart about what they do, improve the quality of their amp models, improve the quality of their distortions. I mean, that was what people were like, their distortions suck. And now they have a pedal that has 200 dirt boxes in it. So my prediction for Zoom is that they are going to continue to release this stuff. We saw the MS50G. We're going to see a modulation device. Maybe it'll be the ultimately I'd like to see them put out a modulation unit and then a reverb unit and then a delay unit. Just do 3 separate pedals. So you would get the yellow one, and you would get the purple for modulation, the distortion, and maybe they'll come out with an amp model or pedal. It's just all amp models. Whatever they do, whatever they come out with, they're affordable. They're at new. They're just a little bit more than the cost of a new Boss pedal. So if you find them on the used market, you can get them for like $75 for one of these multi-stomps. You know, I mean, I paid I paid 50. I paid 50 for my G10N, and man, did I get use out of that thing. The spring reverb model on it is called the 63 Spring. And I brought it up on that guy. There's this guy, 60 Cycle. He always just gripes about spring reverb. And so I brought it up a couple years ago. I said, hey, you're the one that always slags off digital models of spring reverb. Have you tried the Zoom? And I just watched the video of him with the MS200 G Plus. He put Velcro on it and Velcroed it to a katana. There's a plastic katana that he bought, and the spring reverb it's unbelievable. I mean, it's a legit spring reverb sound. I'm not even gonna say it, but yeah, he didn't come up. He only likes to say it when it's slagging something off that's digital. He won't come out and say, "Whoa, this thing's digital," and like I don't want to be here ripping on that guy. I just don't understand why people send him so much gear when he doesn't. He's not a creative guitar player. He's a one-trick pony, and he doesn't understand effects. Why all these companies are sending him stuff to do demos? I guess is because people feel safe. They feel safe with him. He's not threatening, you know. But he demonstrated the filter delay effect. And he laughed about it and said this was a patch that he had programmed. And I know what you can do with that filter delay effect. It's a flexible effect. The way that I used it was to get an Eddie Van Halen sound out of it, and the way that I did that was replicating a phaser with a filter that has an LFO. The only thing is, the filter is only on the delay. So my straight sound comes out at you unmolested, and then there's just a real subtle filtering that's on an LFO that sounds just like a phaser that's only on the echo repeat. Okay? So for a high gain metal sound, my tone is unmolested, but then in the background, I've got this subtle phasing going on. And I thought of that and applied it, and it worked. And it worked so unbelievably good. Like that patch that I made, it's the ZNR1 with the effect set to the input, and it's set at 17, which is just a noise gate. Then it's the ZNR1, or the, ZMP1, that's their tube preamp model. And it's basically with the gain at noon and effect, set your EQ to how you like it. And then the Alien amp model, which is the high gain amp model. And you can go easy on the gain. You don't have to crank it. And then last but not least, the filter delay, and then a little bit of ambient reverb. And that patch, it's really something. I can't tell you how many songs I used it on, and I've got a real lot of live video. You could go on this channel. There's a song called Reent, Reent, Toont, Reent Toont. You can look up Reent Toont on this channel. You could look up Pilfer, Pilfer, and you can hear that patch. But like I said, I used all that stuff even with the old crappy amp models and sounded phenomenal. It sounded great. It's just a little bit limited. A lot of the other amp models could have been way better than they were, but for the time it came out, they were really they were good. Now amp modeling has come a long way, and I realize these companies they don't want to be putting something out and have it become obsolete right away. So I'm overjoyed that Zoom has kind of waited a little bit for their next before updating. I mean, I know they had a couple things come out, but really, as far as successful products that have been a success, because that's where they're going to be successful. They're going to be successful with the multi-stop. And if they can sell a battery powered amp modeler that's going to rival, where the amp modeling rivals the stuff like the NUX and the Helix, they'll do really well with that. That's what they need to do. We need to get the old idea that Digitech had of the little RP90, little RP55, those things that sounded horrific. We need things like that, but that they sound really good. And I think a lot of people missed out on the Zoom because when they saw it, they thought right away, oh, that's another one of those little plastic things that you put batteries in, and it says British for Marshall. It says Queenie for Vox or something. They have like different names and basically none of them are really usable tones. It sounds just like garbage because that really wasn't the case, even back on the older generation of stuff. So going on what I know and the reputation that they have, I'm projecting and I'm really hopeful that this stuff will improve, that they're going to beef up the frequency response on it, that it's going to be 24-bit, 96. Let's bump those numbers up. Keep them coming. Keep it coming. Or are they reworking the same old technology? I don't know. But I really like the idea that they're putting the option to run it off of 5 volts. That's hip. That's really hip. For a guy who does stuff remote outdoors, that's super hip. So I'm super excited about this. I like right now, over here underneath this thing here, this is a powered monitor with a tweeter and like a 4.5-inch woofer, volume, bass and treble controls on it. And underneath this, there's a little wooden, I built a little shelf for that speaker. Underneath that is a NUX MG300. And so I can turn that on and fix that cable. But like I said, I've got the MG300. The amp modeling on that is better than the Zoom. So I don't use my Zooms anymore. I don't. I've got the one over there. I was going to run it in the effects loop with the MG30. And the MG30 is the big brother to that. And it sounds like the amp modeling is really good. Really good. That's a $250 multi-effector that has $1,000 amp modeling in it. And it just sounds really, really good. So that's what I'm using right now. I've got my G3 still with the expression pedal, external expression pedal. It's not connected to it. That's how I like it. And like when the G3 first came out, it was limited to 3 effects at once, and then they did a firmware update on it. Nobody was buying it, and they just opened it up and said, "Oh, it does 6 now." So it's like they were neutering their own product just to fit it into where they thought it should fit into its price range. So then later on, some college kid writes software for these things where you can bounce the sounds in between them. So I have a real soft spot in my heart for that Zoom stuff. And I'll tell you, I wish I had all the Zoom effects, because the NUX effects, they don't give you that much. It's not that the NUX effects are low quality. They're great quality. They really are. The only thing that I had an issue with the NUX was the auto wah was a little weird. And the freeze. There's a thing where you can freeze the chorus. They don't give you a way to adjust the volume level on that freeze sound, and it's crazy. There's like I tested it, and there's a 27 dB deficit between some of the quiet and some of the loud ones. So why, like, recently, the past couple of years, I've been on this NUX train. I would go right back. Like if Zoom dropped a new like $200 unit that you could put batteries in it, and it did everything, and the amp modeling was better. So it's exciting when you see companies moving forward and making the right decisions. Because typically, like what happened with Boss? Like they came out, like, does anybody even think of Boss as being a contender? Because to me, it was like Boss, they had their pedals, they had their pedal game, and then they started, like, they had the GT6. And that was like, holy cow, is this thing unbelievable. All in one, and they've kind of floundered in there. Like, I don't see a lot of people playing in bands using the Boss stuff. And I was a fan. I have a GT6 here. I spent a lot of money on it. I used it for a long time. I got some I did some amazing things with it. It's got some really cool stuff in there. Unique, But the idea of using that nowadays, like if I'm going to do an album and I'm going to revert. I'm going to use that GT6. I don't think I would do it. I would do that with the VG8. I have the Cosm processor that looks like a stealth fighter. It was $2,695 was the retail price on it when it came out, and it uses the synth pickup. That I use. I mess with that. That's really cool. It does this thing with banjos, um, 12 strings. Like it changes your guitar and like the 12 string really sounds like a 12 string. The banjo really sounds like a banjo. It's not like, oh, that kind of could maybe in a full mix, but it's that's awesome. That's the VG8. Now they came out with another one called the VG88. That's a piece of shit. That's an absolute steaming hot mess piece of garbage. So, like when I say, "Oh, I'm excited to bring you this information today," I am. I bring you the information, and I'm like, oh, I just know that I'm speaking too soon on this, and that it is the same technology, but it can't be. It's been so many years since that other stuff came out. They would have had to have updated it, and this has got to be better sounding. It's got to be improved. So let's cross our fingers that this is true and that we're going to see. Because when the thing about it is, you have companies that are like, okay, this product, it it's going to mimic a tube amp, which is like a $3,000 thing, at least, and then it's also going to mimic effects, pedals. Which how much is a guitar player going to play on pedals? So we can get away with charging X amount of money on it. But then you have the rest of the people in the economy who never would spend that amount of money. Like I would never spend that amount of money at this. Maybe going back to when I was a kid and I actually had money coming in and I the world was my oyster. But I don't think I would spend that much on something. Like right around like 500-600, it just starts getting to be too expensive. So the idea that we can take this technology, this modeling technology, and make it affordable, but not have any compromise, but have it sound fucking awesome. I'm a believer in that. I know it can be done. I know the neural guys are doing it for free with software, and I know how cheap all of this the processing power has become. So let's make it happen. Let's bring, Helix or XFX level quality, which is basically what I got here with the NUX. I mean, it was like I think I spent 210 for my MG30, and it's unbelievable how good it sounds. It really is. But it's a little bit lacking when it comes to the effects. I mean, I can get by with it. Now I'm running a bunch of other pedals in the loop, and I know I'm going to put one of these zooms in the loop. That's the next thing that I wanted to do. I've got a more Ocean machine, which is a fancy dual delay with a real fancy reverb, and I bought that to run in conjunction with this, and I was thinking, oh, I ought to get that out again. But having everything in one, or a slightly more modular approach, the sky is the limit with this stuff. But man, it's like for every one decent or good product that comes out, there's so many, waste of time products that just don't do it for whatever reason. You know, they're not successful. So it's an exciting day, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. It's good. It's good to see them coming out with multi-stomp products because I know that people love those. I know that people will buy them and they'll be on the used market. That's good for me. You know. All right, you guys. I'll talk to you.